And it's still also on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto's big promise to city youth in Blitz tour. So Sion is talking about the agendas here and continues on page 5. They say Ruto pledges 5 billion fund for city traders, alleges imperial rule plot. He also mentioned that there's going to be 100,000 new housing units. Let's probe that for a bit. He also said that he put aside about 50 billion shillings. What is the argument behind this, and is it practical from where you stand? Because I know you are allied to the bottom-up economy.
Allow me, before I go there, to add a rider to what I had said earlier. The meeting of the one that the president has convened for as mayor is trying to achieve what he has attempted for the last 4 years but failed. When the president came up with the issue of handshake, they used a lot of English words, but the real reason about and the real reason behind the handshake was an attempt to manage his succession. It failed. Then he went ahead and took away the constitutional functions of the deputy president and gave them to you-know-who. It failed. Again, the attempt was to manage his own succession. Then he went ahead and tried to move the illegal and unconstitutional BBI for the same reason. It failed. Then he went ahead and started convening meetings of tribal kingpins in State House, where after it failed, he attempted to read the Riot Act to them. They defied him. And now, he's summoning these members of parliament, some of them who have already, as we have seen in the last 2 weeks, jumped ship out of the political parties that were being controlled by tribal chiefs. You know that ANC has leaked. It has lost a lot of members of parliament to other parties. And therefore, to me, the intention is to subject the tribal kingpins to a conversation where previous members who have since moved ship will make contribution in a way to intimidate them. I think it might not succeed. So let's face it, truth be told, as my brother Sossion Honorable has said, the history of the country is that an outgoing president cannot dictate to the electorate on how he should be succeeded. Moi failed miserably in 2002. Kibaki was smarter. After he attempted to push Musalia Mudavadi, he retreated very quickly. And I don't think President Uhuru will succeed this time round. Now, on the issue of the pledge by the Deputy President, we have a National Economic Council within our formation that advises the Deputy President. And he is not just speaking it off the cuff. This has been preceded by meetings, regional meetings on economic issues, where issues that are people felt have been expressed by leaders from several, all the regions of Kenya, and from it, the Deputy President is speaking. Of course, when we launch our manifesto, it will become clearer that these figures and comments are not just being thrown at the public. There are matters that have been well thought through, and of course, anybody doubting what the Deputy President said yesterday, he should appreciate that we are competitors. Let him approach the public and promise them 6,000 shillings per month for every family, and we see the viability. We are solid that injecting money from the bottom to the top is solid, it is scientific, it is workable, and it will be achieved.
Okay. Prof, from outside looking in, how practical are these promises that the leaders are making. And let's just take two of them. From the bottom up side, there's the 5 billion shillings to small businesses, 100,000 units. From the other side, there's the 6,000 stipend, there's Baba Care, and yet we know some people are arguing that UHC itself, the pilot failed. So how practical are these promises being made by politicians?
I think pre-election promises are usually attractive. And they're attractive. Most of them are largely made without a basis because they're made with a view to getting the voter to cast their vote at an election, but often not founded on firm ground. Because what happens then is this, Trevor, when the election cycle is over, every expense must be appropriated in accordance with the law. You need a budget, you need a budget line, you must find out how much money the country has, and then you must know what feeds into what line of expenditure. And I think that then the role of Parliament comes in handy.
Yeah.
And remember, we have 3 arms of government. You have to ensure that whatever monies we have goes into the workings of all the departments, the judiciary, the executive, and Parliament, and of course the other organs of state. So I think that these are perhaps at this point, the Vice President, Deputy President making a promise of 5 billion fund for city treasury. I think it just demonstrates an intention that when I become president, if I get elected as president, I will commit some money to traders. I think that is what he is.
But he can't put a figure now.
And I think Baba is also saying that when I get elected, I will commit some funds to those who do not have jobs. It may be 6,000, it may not be 6,000, it may be less, it may be more, but at least I look at that line of expenditure. I think largely, I think the gullible citizen or the gullible member of the public will go for what they see as easy to get. They will look at what promise, they compare the promises. Which side is better for me? And I think these are just pre-campaign promises. I normally treat them as such.
Okay. Well, thank you for your thoughts on this.
Yes.
Prof, you know, Prof is looking from outside in, so he can call it as it is.
Well, I mean, I think he's fairly right, because as far as the process of appropriation is concerned, you know, what Prof says is
your microphones are on.
What happens, that definitely there is a law that has to be followed in appropriating funds. So I think to that extent he's right. Being a lawyer, also I think Prof knows. I think was it Quintus Cicero, you know, writing an edict to his brother when he was running for office in old Rome. We wrote a lengthy letter to him on how to win the election when he was running to be a consul of Rome. And in one of the suppositions or suggestions, he was saying that the rule of running for office is promise everything to anyone. so
they're pretty much empty promises then.
So you never know. I mean, definitely. Of course, using your election manual, you could decide how you want to run your election and say things. But finally, what we would need to agree here, Trevor, in my view, is that it is doable to follow on election promises. If you make election promises that you're serious about. The good thing about the current election that we have, especially at the presidential level, is that everybody running is running as a first termer. So one would be making promises thinking that they may have to run again. And I think that would be a caution in advance, because once you're elected, you know, what people start doing within the first year of election is now starting to call you out on the promises that you made. And if you make promises that you do not meet, in most cases, in an election at any level, even if it's from a member of parliament or an MCA, people now will start using that as a way to bring you down. And in most cases, you find that it contributes a lot to people who don't get re-elected because of making promises that you don't meet. And so I would be expecting that the promises they're making, and I think I would agree with Prof that maybe they may not need to put numbers around the financial proposals, but it could be a starting point also in appropriating a number to it, because you would say this is what my intention is. Remember that even in the current system that we have, a president has leeway to make proposals to Parliament and lobby Parliament to accept his proposals as long as they're good for the country. So I believe it can be done. However, Trevor, we cannot close the discussion without acknowledging that what was claimed the other day in Parliament is that we have a lot of sloganeering, a lot of promises that are made without the fine intent to be accomplished, and so it's upon Kenyans to have their eyes open, and once the election is over, whoever wins, and may the best man win, then we follow and ensure that those promises are kept. We just hope they will be.
Okay. Yeah. So, Siona, this is just empty promises, and it's from both sides. It's not just your side of the political divide. Everyone is giving promises.
I think it's good we tell Kenyans the truth here. And every presidential candidate will always present an agenda. And in an election, voters will be electing an individual in the person of a president and also electing a manifesto at the same time. That's the truth. So that's why we must take what the presidential candidates are pushing across. And that is the standard practice in governance all over the world. And coming to what William Ruto has proposed, in fact, is extremely revolutionary. And it works. And it resonates with the common man. If you look at the entire the model of UDA, of bottom-up economic agenda, is quite revolutionary and is very attractive to Kenyans. And it is focusing on the people at the bottom of the pyramid, the Kenyans who have lived in abject poverty since 1963. And when you look at the figures being mentioned, the 5 billion, it is not coming from the blues. If William Ruto is elected today, the state shall be obligated to allocate these 5 billion to the small-scale business owners in the city. And this is a very clear agenda. You see, Trevor, you must communicate with total clarity exactly what you'll do to the people. And the moment you are elected, within 100 days, that program must be up and rolling. So really, this is not just mere window dressing. It is exactly what will happen. And this is part of the wider package of spurring the economy. Yeah. And if you look at what William Ruto has proposed in the model of promoting micro, small, medium enterprises, it has committed 50 billion shillings from the exchequer across the country, and to spur and to activate the micro, small, medium enterprise. And this is now compelling the people to think differently, to work and create a working economy, which to me is the best way of lifting people out of poverty. And this is not a new model here in Kenya. It has been, and I would classify William Ruto actually in terms of this agenda is a very bold way of doing it, and it works, and it is selling to what Cubans have done under Fidel Castro. You look at the economy, to what Mao Zedong has done in China. Look at the Chinese with 1.5 billion people in terms of the economy, in terms of employment of the citizens, and in terms of doing business. So I think, to me, what was pledged to the people of Nairobi is something which works. And look at it beyond availing 5 billion to the micro, small medium enterprises who work in the city, and the city actually holds about 60% of the GDP of the country. This is a clear indication that the small-scale enterprise owners in Nairobi will have good opportunities of doing businesses. And in addition to that, the commitment to build 20 markets so that the businesses that are being done here, the hawkers, can be made decent, make every job decent.
Yeah.
That is why the agenda is kazi kwa kazi, and it will work. If you look at the evolution, counties that have modernized businesses, the small-scale businesses, by putting up decent markets, it has made our economy at the grassroots work. It has made our micro, small, medium enterprises like Mama Bogas and the rest do businesses in a decent way.
Yeah.
And I think this is the best way of lifting Kenyans out of poverty. And I'm sure if this model is implemented, it's the most competitive, the most attractive, and it's a sure way of lifting people out of poverty. So you don't promise people for the sake. You say exactly what will be done. Like what Kibaki did. He promised us in the sector, in the education sector, free education. The moment he got elected, free education became part of mandatory government policy. So it is not mere wishes being made by presidential candidates. It is what will be done. And Parliament and other government institutions will stand obligated to implement the agenda of any president who is elected.
All right, I will take a quick break here on Daybreak. When you come back, we talk about the hate speech issue and also the political